Welcome back to The Calling. I'm your host, Connor Coman, and as you can see, we have a special episode today. We actually have our very first guest on the show, and I'm going to give him his proper introduction in a minute. But before we get into our conversation today, let me just remind you viewers of what the purpose of this show is, why we started The Calling. It is because I believe there's many people out there in the world nowadays that are feeling this calling, this sense of I am meant for more. I'm not meant to live this tiny life. I have a purpose inside of me and there's a destiny that I need to fulfill. However, we're in a world, in a system, a society that does not teach you how to do it. It does not teach you and condition you with the skills and the wisdom and the perspectives that you need in order to go through what we call growth. That's what this podcast is all about, is the calling to fulfill, but you need to grow. There's certain skills and, again, wisdom and perspectives that, if applied, that growth is possible, that fulfillment of the calling is possible. And so that's what we're doing here today. We're going to have a great conversation today. I'm so excited to share my good friend with you guys today. He shows all of these skills that we talk about on the show. He has fruit in his life in different areas that represent true, meaningful, impactful growth. And so this man is not just a great friend of mine. He's not just a man of faith. He is a son to some amazing parents. He's a husband to a beautiful wife. And I am truly blessed to call him a good friend of mine. But welcome to the podcast, Mr. Brandyn Lynch.
Thank you for
Welcome
having
to
me,
the show, brother.
I appreciate you.
I truly mean it. You're a blessing to my life, and man, just can't really explain my gratitude for having you in my life. We go way back.
Yeah.
I mean, way back years ago. I met Brandyn in church, and man, I think we developed a good connection right away. But it wasn't until we started to really hang out, and we were doing Bible studies, and we would fellowship off and on, and we just kind of clicked.
Yeah.
We had an immediate friendship, and
We got
man.
close, and then you moved.
And then I moved to Tennessee. But even then, he's one of those friends that it doesn't matter how far apart you are, no matter how long goes by when we don't talk. I mean, we don't talk every day.
We pick up right where we
Yeah,
left off.
exactly. It feels like we talk every day, but really it's probably sometimes months
It's
and we don't
months go
talk.
by
But
sometimes, and I have to be reminded. Tomorrow I'll be like, "Hey, when's the last time you talked to Connor?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, I
yes,
am friends with Connor. That's right." Like,
yep,
that's how I am with a lot of people. I gotta get better at that though.
that's right.
I definitely gotta get better at that.
Man, well, welcome to the show, brother. You know what this show's all about. Main word, as we talked off camera, is growth.
Yeah.
We want to equip the audience with skills that they need in order to grow, that people have this calling. I know you're someone, just through our conversations, our friendship, you have a calling on your life. You have that call to grow, whether it's in your career, which we'll get into, your family. There's goals, there's a vision on your life that you want to go get, and you understand that you have to grow as a person. You have to grow and develop and just have this growth if you want to achieve these things. So before we get into that and get into some great conversation that we can all extract some wisdom from, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are, who is Brandyn Lynch, maybe where did it all start? I believe you're around 30 years old now. You can get into all that with us and just kind of catch us up from start to finish. Tell us a little bit about your story.
Yeah. Again, I'm Brandyn Lynch, and like Connor said, we met a couple years back, became pretty close, and I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that we both come from a sports background.
Yeah.
Faith, sports, goes hand in hand. I try to explain to people all the time, like, people that may not be of the faith, like I was explaining to my cousin actually a couple of days ago, just how parallel my relationship with the Lord is and the sport that I was in. I was a professional boxer for about 8 years. My father was my coach, and boxing helped my relationship grow so much with the Lord. Although I made it to a pretty high level in the sport. I fought on some really big cards. I fought on national television before. I fought some people on television that I watched on television before I had television status. So I made it pretty far in the sport. Didn't get a world title belt or anything like that. I didn't make it to the pinnacle of the sport, but I think the Lord knew exactly what He was doing when He took me out, and why. So boxing really made me needy for the Lord. I think that was the way that God made me realize how much I needed Him. Was putting me in a sport where it was like I was late coming in already. Most people know, like, if you start boxing after the age of 15, they say that it's like it's too late. You know how you should have been boxing at age 8. It's always younger and younger and younger. There's sports like that. I mean,
like
gymnastics. Gymnastics
That's
like
right.
that. You know, not ice hockey, but like what they do in the Olympics, they do the tricks and stuff on the ice.
Skating?
Skating.
Skating.
Figure skating. A lot of these sports, man, like if you don't start when you're super, super young, they tell you that you're too old to do it and you shouldn't start.
Right.
And that's what it was for me. Like, I started age like 22, which is way, 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 way late for boxing. But I felt the Lord call me and tell me that I could do it. I had some talent, and I went for it. And I'm the kind of guy that when I go for something, I put everything into it.
Yeah.
And that's what it was for boxing. I put everything that I had into it. And we'll talk about it in a little while, but my training regimen, what I ate, how I lived my life, everything revolved around boxing, which was a good thing. But then it turned into a little bit of an idol situation, which again we'll talk about in a minute. But yeah, I'm married. I have a beautiful wife. Her name is Tamara, and she's next door right now. We're out here coming to visit from LA, so we're having a great time with family. And thank you for having me on the show.
Of course, brother. And he's absolutely right. His wife is amazing.
She's
It's you guys are such a power couple, and I could see you guys fulfilling so much. She's someone who we're gonna have on the show, and she's all about growth as well. So, man, you guys together are gonna have a powerful story.
Yeah.
One thing you mentioned in your story about boxing, which I want to get into a little bit, but you said you gave your all to it. So just for anyone watching this, if you want to grow and you have a vision for your life, maybe it's in business, maybe it's I want to raise a great family, I want to make a bunch of money so I can take care of my family. In any of these areas, business, family, church, you have to give your all to it. There's no middle ground. It's not I'm gonna be half in and only do it when I feel like it. If you were only going to boxing and would practice and eat right, if you only did that when you felt like it, you would not become a professional boxer. So that's something that I forgot to mention in my introduction of you for the show is a professional boxer here. So Brandyn has reached, a level of success that in order to get there, skills and wisdom, perspective, things that can teach us and teach anyone who's watching this if you want to make it to that level in your area. And so talk to me a little bit about boxing. How did that all start? How did you get into it? What made you be like, I think I want to box. I'm gonna put my talents towards this lane and then becoming a professional boxer, not just a hobby. Let me train a little bit at the gym. No, professional. Stepped in the ring, got punched in the face for a living, and made money whooping on people. Talk to me a little bit about
now,
that.
But
How did it all start? What got you into boxing? What took it to the next level of professionalism? Yeah, just give us some insight into that. What was that story?
Well, my family has always been big fight fans. Like, some of my earliest memories of all my family coming over was watching like Roy Jones fight, Mike Tyson fight. We were a big fight family, so like I said, some of my earliest memories were doing my best to stay awake for the main event and like fighting every ounce of sleep that I had in me. But my grandfather was a professional fighter. My dad was an amateur fighter, so I'm like third generation. My grandfather always thought that I would love boxing, but I was always into martial arts. I did martial arts for years and years and years. And the reason I did martial arts was actually I started with my dad because I used to be a really shy kid, believe it or not, and martial arts broke me out of my shell. And I really liked it. I excelled at it. Got to a national level. And fast forward, I went to college. I got a degree. By that time, my grandfather had passed away. I came home. I worked in my field, which was PR, for about a year and some change. And I remember having a day where I came in, sat down at my desk in the morning, and I kind of like went into this trance and like snapped out of it and looked at the clock and like a whole hour had gone by, and that's when I knew. I said, I'm not cut for this right now.
Wow.
So I decided, I had always thought about boxing. Obviously my grandfather kind of wanted me to check it out, and But at that time, I was like, you know what? Let me just go, like, just for giggles, like, go hop in a gym.
Yeah.
Went into a gym, and I never left. I decided that's what I wanted to do with my life. And I put everything that I had into that. And when I decided that was what I was going to do, that changed the trajectory of everything, man. Like, my day to day, my hour to hour, the things I was eating, who I was hanging out with, because all of this stuff comes into play, right? If you want to be the best at anything, you're going to surround yourself with people that do the task that you do and that are good at it, right? I'm not going to surround myself with people that are lazy. I'm not going to surround myself with people that are just gluttons. I'm not going to surround myself with people who have no ambition. And I think that's why we clicked, is because you've always, since day one, you're ambitious. You're a go-getter. You want to get stuff done, and you're no nonsense. So I kind of like that. I like people like that. I like people that can understand where I'm coming from, whether or not you're in the field of boxing or whatever the case may be. Like, you get it just from a perspective of being a dude that wants to go get it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah, and boxing was that was everything for a long time, and that was where lied the problem. To be great at anything like that, a sport like that, you have to give your all.
Yeah.
And I think there's a fine line when it comes to sports and things like that, because boxing is one of those things. Paul talks about running a race in the Bible, right? And what you have to do to win the race, and what the prize is. And when you take that perspective and you put it on boxing, it's that, but it's even more dangerous.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not just running a race, and that if I lose, I don't just lose the race, right? It's a very, very literal, like, I can be killed in this.
Yeah.
And I've had people.
Many people have, right?
I've known
in the
people
ring.
that have in the ring. You know what I'm saying?
Man.
But obviously we understand that Paul is talking about the eternal reward that we get. There's a very worldly reward, which is like the trophy you get to hold up to say, hey, I worked harder than all the dudes next to me, and I came out on top. I won. And then there's an eternal reward, which is eternity with Christ, right? We know that. But I think it's cool how he uses the comparison of sports, and not just sports. I was thinking about it, and I'm like, Paul could have used any other sport, but he used running, right? Running is a solo sport. And in solo sports like boxing, you lose, and I'm going to talk about that too, because I have lost my third fight. I think was a big thing for me. But when you lose in boxing or a solo sport like that, you can blame nobody but yourself. It is you and you alone that you can blame, whether or not you did the work or you didn't do the work. And I think it's crazy that Paul used that example of a solo sport and brought it up like that, because it's a really good parallel for life. Like, the way that we live on this earth, we know that we can't. What is it? When you're playing a game of basketball, you don't score any points, but you got like Kobe on your team. You're like, man, Kobe carried me. Like,
Right.
You don't get carried into heaven. Like, that's not how it works. You gotta have your own relationship, right? You got to do your work. Not that we're striving, and the finished work on the cross is how we are saved, but still, it takes some discipline. It takes some work, and it takes us doing that work.
Yes. Let's talk about that. That's something that, when I think Brandyn Lynch, I think discipline. It is the one word that comes to my mind when I picture you and think about you. So going back to boxing, so you stepped into the gym, and it sounds like you got inspired.
Yeah.
Maybe you saw someone getting hit, the way the bag was punched, whatever it was that inspired you. You felt a call to get into boxing. So you get into it, you start fighting. But I talk to us about this. I would assume that it was discipline that took you from just training in the gym here and there to now I'm a professional boxer.
Yeah.
This is who I am and what I do. Again, with anything we want to go grow in, business, family, sports, career, school, we need discipline. It's not just when you feel like it. It's regardless of how I feel, this is what I need to do to grow, to get to where I want to go.
Yeah.
So having that, was it always a goal of professional boxing? Was it, let me just see how this goes? What was the goal? And then I want you to dive deep into, tell us about the discipline it really required, because every time I've ever spent time with you, it's, oh no, I can't eat that. I'm getting ready for a fight. You know, I stayed with you for a few weeks at one point out in LA, and it was, this guy's up at 5 a.m. and he's on the bike out there. And then it's breakfast time. And then it's, I got to go to work. Then it's, I got to hit my next workout. And then it's, oh, now I'm going to the gym to hit the pads. Then I'm coming back. Oh, no, I can't eat that for dinner. You know, when I'm in California, I go eat In-N-Out and cookies.
Crumble cookie.
But man, you were always so disciplined to say, oh no, that's not on my menu. Like I'm doing this, I'm cooking this because this is what I got to get ready for. So just extreme discipline came from you, and I would love for you to share your perspective on that discipline and just what level of discipline is required to grow to reach that level of professionalism.
Yeah, well, you know, most people don't really realize, but to be a professional boxer, if you want to be a professional boxer, you can go right now to the commission and say, I want to be a professional boxer, sign some paperwork, and you can be a professional boxer.
Interesting.
Most people don't realize that.
And was that always the goal, or did you start as just a hobby?
No. I think when I decided, like I said, when I decided to do something, I go all in.
Yeah.
And I said, look, this is what I'm doing, and I was like, the goal is to be a professional. And
that's a skill right there.
Yeah.
When you want to do something, it's all in.
All in, man.
Keep going, brother. Sorry.
No, you're good. But yeah, so like I was saying, like most people don't know, it's like you can go and get your professional license and go do whatever you want. You can go on the internet and look up some fights and be like, there's no way that man is professional.
Wow.
You know? And but the trick with that is this, like, yes, you can go and get your license and be professional if you want to, but just like I said about the solo sports, if you get in the ring and you get your block knocked off because you wanted to go and be a professional, just because you signed some paperwork and be a professional, that is all. It's completely on you. It's on nobody else. So there is a difference between a professional who's doing the work and just a professional. In boxing, it's even more of a subcategory.
Yeah.
It's really tricky, man. The dedication that goes into boxing, for me, it was, and most people will tell me I was doing too much, but I didn't know how to do anything less. I was working out 3 times a day, like 6 days a week, and from bike rides and stairmaster routines and sparring and hitting the mitts and hitting the bag and running and doing all my calisthenic work, like it was a non-stop thing. And then eating, it was always something. And that discipline, the discipline that it takes to be good at anything, it takes some sacrifice, right?
That's good.
You can't be good at anything without some kind of sacrifice. So the sacrifice that came with boxing, sure, it was because like I wanted to be really good, but I also, look, if you're in a sport like that, it's not, like I said, it's not just like, oh, I lost the match. It's like, dude, you could end up really, really hurt. And who's to blame? You. So the discipline came from, look, I want to be good at this, but also I need to protect my temple.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's a lot where a lot of that discipline came from, was simply that I didn't want to go in there and be hurt. Like I would rather be on the other side of that.
Man, something you just said, I hope you caught it if you're listening, is discipline requires sacrifice. Mm-hmm. If you're taking notes, write that down. That's something that needs to be ingrained in our minds. Yeah. That let's go through that formula again. You want to be a professional, you want to reach greatness, you want to grow. You're going to have discipline to do the things that are required. If you want to have the discipline to do the things that are going to be required, you have to be willing to sacrifice. Yeah. And so, what are we sacrificing? Sometimes it's comfort, it's feeling good, it's the things that you want. Yeah, so what I've been teaching a lot of people, especially with my business, and because I work with a lot of people that have a business vision. They want to make a certain amount of money. And so it's the same formula. It's, okay, you want that? There's things that are required. Yeah. It requires discipline.
It's not magic.
And here's what you got to sacrifice. So what we teach a lot is there's the pain of discipline versus the pain of regret.
Take discipline every day.
Exactly. And it's worth it because, yes, if you want to reach that, you're going to have to go through the pain of discipline. You're going to have to sacrifice the food you want. You're going to have to sacrifice sleeping in. You're going to have to get up and do these workouts in your case. So that's the pain of discipline, is sacrificing my short-term comfort so that I can grow and reach my goal. Mm-hmm. And if you're not willing to do that, then you're choosing the pain of regret. It's comfort now. It's,
Yeah.
ooh, eat all the cookies I want.
Yeah.
I'll just keep clicking snooze. I'll do the things that make me feel good and give me pleasure in the moment. But the consequence of that is the pain of regret.
Yeah, and
It's
there's no
looking
upside past the pleasure.
exactly.
This is
That's
the
that's
pleasure,
where
and
it ends.
this is the victory for you, is right
Yep.
here.
And then it goes downhill.
Exactly.
And then in your case, it could be if I don't, sacrifice and go through the pain of discipline, then I get my short-term pleasure. I can eat what I want, sleep in, take it, half-assed in the gym, and then the result of that could be I get knocked out in the ring.
Exactly.
That's true pain of regret.
That's
So
real pain of
so
regret right there. Yeah.
you have to choose which one you want to commit to. Do you want short-term pleasure that's going to lead to the pain of regret? Or do you want to just go through the pain of discipline now,
Right.
make the sacrifices, and then on the other side of that is growth.
Yeah.
It's professionalism. It's holding your hand up high, getting crowned victor in the ring. It's winning.
Yeah.
So curious, and I've already learned a few things about you from this that I haven't known. But what if looking back on your career in the ring, and then I'll want to move on to some other things, is if you have one fight looking back, maybe it's your very first fight stepping in, maybe it's the last one, maybe something in between. If there's one fight that you look back on and think, man, that one, I remember that one the most. Like that one impacted me. That one, which one stands out to you the most? How many did you have? And then which one stood out the most?
Okay.
And why do you think it stands out the most?
There's a couple that stand out, but like the most, I have to break that into two different fights. And I'll explain why. The first one is my very first fight. I think that this is just a good example for life in general. Like, I had been training for about 2 years at that point, and relentlessly. Like, I looked like a GI Joe. I had the stamina. I had everything that I needed to have to go into the ring and do what I had to do. But what I was lacking was confidence. And the confidence that I lacked, I remember being so. In boxing, what happens is they take you to the back. It might be a gym or a locker. At this point, it was we were in Brownsville, Texas, and we were in a like a bathroom kind of situation. And you sit back there, you turn on your music, or whatever, you warm up, and the commission's back there's real quiet, just you. Commission's back there, and the commission wraps your hands. This is like preparing for war.
Right.
Like what's going down. They wrap your hands. And they have to stand right there because there's been issues in the past with people cheating, taking out padding, all that stuff. So they wrap your hands. Commission signs off where the tape stops. They put your gloves on. They sign off on where the tape stops around the gloves. And at that point, it's like, you gotta pee, you gotta poo. Well, I guess you're gonna do it in your gloves, or you're gonna have somebody else hold it for you. But I got an interesting story on that one. But anyways,
Another episode.
But yeah, it's at that time it's go time. It's war, and I remember, man, this is where my dad comes into play. So my dad he was my coach.
Yeah.
And it took earlier that day, and then going into later in the day when I had to, was back there with the commission, it took my dad putting his hands on my back and saying like, all right, come on, son, we can do this. We can do this.
Wow.
And it just goes to show you, man, how important confidence is, and how important believing in yourself is, not in a false way. Like, if you believe in yourself but you haven't done the work, that's ignorant. But if you've done the work and you've done everything to be successful and you still have an issue believing in yourself, that can be detrimental. And I suffered through I went through that for some time, but the first real experience that I went through that with was my first fight. And my dad had to kind of nudge me out and like reminding me, like, son, you've done the work.
Yes.
You've done the preparation. You're prepared to go out there and do what it is that you know that you have to do. And I went out and I ended up winning my fight. Got a knockout. It was great. So that was one that I really remember because that really was like the rolling point for things to get going.
So your first fight was a knockout?
Yeah, the first fight was fun. It was a knockout. It was pretty. And Shane Mosley, senior legend, he worked my corner for that fight. It was a really cool.
That must have been amazing.
It was something very special.
Man, family, if you're watching this, you need to pause and rewind it just a couple minutes and listen to what Brandon was just talking about. What I love what you said is the confidence. It's both. It's confidence and the mindset, the belief, but it's also the skill set, the preparation. So you can you could be so confident and believe in yourself and I can do this, and you could be amped up and believe it, but then when you go step in to perform, if you haven't done the work, if there's no preparation there,
Yeah.
failure.
Yeah.
And then on the other hand, if you put in the work, you've done all you can do, but you have no confidence, you don't believe that you can do this.
Yeah.
Success is going to take both the work put in, the preparation, and also the confidence. That's what we say in business. It's mindset and skill set. So if you're watching this again, these lessons transcend
Sports.
career. It's
Yeah.
not just in the ring. It's in the ring of building your family.
Yeah,
it's in the ring of just personal growth, in getting successful financially, building a business. All these things take the same skills.
Yeah.
It's belief and confidence. It's the work, the preparation. Man, we're already just getting so much wisdom from you. So I want to shift gears, because another thing you just mentioned there is your dad, relationship with your dad. Shout out to Brandyn Lynch, absolute legend.
Yeah.
So I know you guys have a super close relationship. And another thing you said is that, you were at that point where you had done the work, you did the preparation. I believe you said you trained for 2 years before the first fight. Yeah. So that the work was there, but maybe the confidence and the belief wasn't there yet. But you had a mentor, you had your dad, you had your coach to push you, to pour belief in you.
Yeah.
And I've learned that too. Sometimes if you don't believe in yourself, you got to surround yourself with people who do believe in you, and you can borrow their belief.
Absolutely.
You borrowed your dad's belief in you, and it
huge.
helped you step in. It's just we need those reminders.
Yeah.
And so you have this relationship with your dad. I know you have spiritual mentors. I know just after we're done filming, you're on your way to spend some time with some mentors. So, mentorship is and relationships is something that I know you value. And in order to have the the coachability, the willingness to yield to your coach and to believe what your dad was telling you, to believe what your spiritual mentors are saying, there needs to be a level of humility.
Yeah, man.
And if that's another word that comes to mind when I think Brandyn, I think discipline, I think humility, just a willingness to grow, a willingness to listen to other people, pour this wisdom into you, and then yield to it. So just talk to us a little bit about that, about humility, where you think your humility comes from, the importance of humility, the importance of mentorship, and just being willing to be guided. Because we have a lot of people in today's day and age that we think we know it all.
Yeah.
We're not open to listening to people. It's, oh, you think that way? Okay, good. I don't want to, just complete wall. I'm going to do it my way. Stubbornness, those skills are going to make success and growth very hard if you're not willing to listen. So I'll give you the floor. Talk to us a little bit about humility, where that comes from, and just how you value that.
Well, I mean, since I'm going to stick on the topic of boxing. It's kind of relating, so we'll keep on it. But in boxing, they always say that if you think you got it all and you know it all, you should quit. And that's huge. It's something that I've always remembered, because it actually brings me back to my third fight, which I lost. That was the first time that I lost. And my dad knows it. I know he watches and probably laugh, but I'm very strong-willed. And when I think something is right, like, oh, I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to do it my way. And I lost that fight. I got dropped in that fight twice. And then I got up, and the ref ended up stopping it. And it was to nobody, too. It was to somebody that I absolutely should have beat, and maybe that I overlooked a little bit. And that level, the level of, that humbled me so much.
Yeah.
And that brought me, and I gained a level of humility from that I don't think I could have gotten any other way. The pain of defeat at that moment opened my eyes to see that, okay, bro, you're here, but nothing is just given to you just because you deserve it. You don't deserve anything. You're here.
That's a message.
I'm serious, man. You don't deserve anything. You're here and you're fighting. Cool. You did the work. Awesome. But like, this could go either way.
Yeah.
And that really made me, that loss and that fight, to, like I said, to somebody who I should have beat anyways. And hats off to him. He did his work. And he did his job, and he won. He was the better man that day. But that fight, man, was something that really reminded me, that really opened up another door to me, which was humility. And my coach, who was my father at the time, it's also extremely important to have a mentor who's willing to not just cheer you on and champion you through victory, but to hold you up in defeat. And that was something that was really key for me.
Yeah.
My dad, dude, I remember going in the back after that fight and just staring off into space and thinking that it was over. I thought I was just gonna like implode or something.
Right.
And my dad stood there and he was strong for me, and he just patted me on the back and told me it was gonna be all right. We'll get back in the gym and get back to it. And never once did he tell me, "Oh well, I told you," because the shot that I got hit with was something that we were working on before, like not getting hit with.
Yeah.
So never once did he rub it in my face. I told you, no, I told you to look out for that. No, he was just a dad. He allowed me to feel that pain a little bit. And he allowed me to experience being humbled.
Yeah. Man, that's so good. You got to be humbled sometimes to realize I don't know it all. I don't got it all.
Yeah.
Someone else has gone before me. And like you said, your dad had reached heights in boxing. So he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
And you guys have a relationship to trust and obey. It's trust and obey. So, man, yeah, I know mentorship is super important to you. And I believe you're already doing it. You're mentoring others too in the church. You're working with some people, and so we can talk about that as well. So I'm gonna throw a third word out there that just comes to mind when I think about you. You know, the discipline, it's the humility, but also it's your servant heart. You're all about service. I mean, I'm gonna share with you the first time I ever met you, because I thought you were gonna be the exact opposite of this, but I remember the first time I met you in the church, and I had heard about you that you were a pro boxer, and so we met in Pomelo Elementary School, and I think it may have been the second time I actually met you, but it was the first conversation we had.
Okay.
It was outside the school, and you had just had a fight. And so you had a huge gash in your forehead, face stitched up, a little black eye. And we were talking, and you were like, yeah, I go down to Mexico and fight like in bars. I'm like, this is a bad dude. I'm like, and if you're watching this, you see this is a good looking man. He's got the muscles. You know, we're in LA, and I'm just like, this is the man right here. Like, just looking at you, you have every reason to be some, overly, it's all about me, I can get whatever I want. Kind of, that's what people do, is use their looks, their skills to their advantage to get what they want, just with more of a prideful look. And if there's anyone who has a reason to be prideful, as far as surface level things go, it would have been you. And that's what I thought in the beginning, is like, this guy is the man. Like, man, everything checks out with this guy. But then getting to know you and seeing how you live your life, it's complete service. It's not self-centered. It's not, I'm going out to make things happen for me. It's, you're working hard to provide for your wife. Yeah. You're a servant in the church. You spend your time, and you could talk about this as well, as teaching kids. You work with kids that have special needs. Everything you put your hand to is about other people. And I see such a low level of self-centeredness in you. Granted, you do have to have some form of self-centeredness in the sense of, I gotta focus and do the things I need to do to reach these goals, but your goals, your end game for you all involves other people. So, man, talk to us about that, just about your service, how you view life. Maybe, I mean, it's so contrary to where most people are at. It's all about the ambition, the go-getter, self-made, this mentality of, I'm gonna make it for myself, versus, no, I'm gonna make this life about other people. So where does that come from? How do you do it, man? You are a true servant, and it's not just something you're trying to do to get something. It's truly who you are from your heart. You care about people, and I think that that's something that, another thing, you want to reach success, you start serving people. That's the best kind of leader. That's how you grow and have people, look to you to be the mentor. So yeah, talk to us about that. Just where that servant heart comes from.
Oh man, like you said, you want to be a leader. You want to be a leader. You got to start at serving. And like we know, even in Scripture, like Jesus came to serve, right? And the serving that I get to do, like for example, one of the young men that I work with, great kid. His mom, it's just him, his mom, and his grandmother. And believe it or not, I started working with this kid. I did some private sessions with him. He was doing boxing with me, and I didn't know that he was special needs until his mom revealed it to me. And then, okay, it kind of made sense after she told me. And to this day, we still work together and deal with some. I work with him weekly. But there's something about being able to give to somebody who truly needs it. And sure, I'm working with the young man, and he has special needs, but I feel like more than serving him, because I'm working with him, it's more of a serving thing for his mother. She's a single parent, and she needs help. And I think working with her son has also given me a level of humility and being able to understand, see something from somebody else's perspective.
Yeah.
Man, this has been a trial run for me for kids, for
Yeah.
sure. Like, I've had to really learn how to be patient and be kind, and have a servant's heart. But I think anytime that we get to put ourselves on the back burner and tend to somebody else's needs, it grows us.
Yes.
It truly grows us, and
Man,
it
that's
gives us
really good.
opportunity to see things from a different lens and a different perspective. And working with the young man has given me a lot of time to self-reflect on myself.
Yeah.
You know, because if you've worked with special needs kids before, you'll know that it's trying at times,
Of course.
and you have to have great patience.
Yeah.
And I think two of the things in my life in which I've noticed and have been able to self-reflect the most on have been working with the two kids that I work with that are special needs, and being married.
Mm.
I realized a whole lot of things, man. Being married, I realized that I could be quite selfish. And in that situation, I had to really learn how to serve my wife well.
Yeah.
And just like you said, to be a great leader, you have to be a great servant.
Right.
And as our job as husbands, as my job as a husband, I have to serve well. I have to do the things at times that I don't want to do, or do the things at times that I feel like I shouldn't have to do.
Yeah.
But that's what's called of me, in order to lead my wife well. And then going back to the kids that I work with, these kids are, I'm sure they don't feel like they're being served. I think they just think that they're like hanging out and like doing cool stuff with Brandyn.
Yeah.
But on the outside of that, there is a mother on the other end of, at least with Santino, there's a mother on the other end of that truly needs support.
Yeah.
And although it's very difficult, myself and my wife, because she helps me a lot with the young man that I work with, we feel like we can give the support that's needed in the time that it's needed. And we've been able to not only just help him with the stuff that we do on a weekly basis, but we also get to minister to him and his mom and his little brother and his grandmother. So being a servant just opens up so many more doors.
Yes.
It opens up opportunities for growth in yourself. It opens up opportunities for growth in the people that you are serving. It opens up opportunities for people that are on the outside watching.
Yeah.
Anybody that sees you serving well is going to wonder, why it is that you serve. What is it about this person that makes you want to help them?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? What is it about that person that makes you want to go out of your way to do something to help that person? And I think that's what serving is all about. Is going. It's saying no to yourself for a moment and saying yes to somebody else.
There's that pain of discipline.
Yeah.
And if it's all about you and you're trying to get to this vision and your goals and greatness, which is good, we should all be pursuing our calls. But if it's all about you and it's just beast mode to the top, like it's all just laser focused about me, you miss out on the whole point of everything. It's others. The fulfillment of your vision is so other people can be served. And when you're making it about others, like you said, doors are going to open that can help you further along the business or the vision that you have, the family that you have. Man, that's really strong wisdom there. So I have a couple more questions for you here before we wrap up. So you've mentioned Jesus a few times now. You brought up the Lord very early on in our conversation. You quoted some scripture, talked about some service in the church. Tell us a little about your relationship with God. How this impacts your life. Maybe someone's watching this and you don't have that relationship with God. You hear Jesus and you think, Catholic Church, do this, don't do this, the Bible. You don't really know about this stuff. What would you say to someone that isn't really about faith and doesn't really know about God? How has a relationship with Jesus impacted your life, and just kind of how did that come into being?
I would say if you're a little bit skeptical about faith, I would tell you to take a deep breath. And then I would ask you how you knew that you were going to be able to take another one after that. You had to have faith in something that you didn't see. And that is the faith that has carried me to where I am today. I think that's the faith that's carried all of us to where we are today. And my relationship has grown so much through my experiences in the past with boxing to my experiences being married. I have constantly had to lean into him and to recognize that I am simply not enough. Like, I know that sounds kind of dark and dreary, but like it's amazing because we serve a God that is plenty. He's more than enough. And it takes time for you to for some people it takes time to realize that. But if you're somebody that's looking into faith or kind of just has questions about it, I mean, all I can say is this. It's been said a bunch in church as of lately, but like, taste and see that the Lord is good. You have to taste and see. Like, if you're sitting at a table somewhere and somebody brings out a bowl of pasta and it looks really good, like, you won't know that it's actually really good until you taste it and you see that the pasta is good.
Yes.
And you got to taste and see that the Lord is good. You have to allow him into your life you gotta allow him into your life to move so that things can happen, so that you can see that he is really here, he is really working on our behalf. And that takes an acceptance of him into your heart. And Jesus is, there's nothing that I can say or do to give you the full breadth of who he is and the God that we serve. But I can say this, that if you give him a chance in your life, he will show you.
Yeah.
And he will show you abundantly if you're patient and if you listen. Connor here just gave an awesome message yesterday on obedience. And I think there's a lot of people that are even of the faith who have not gotten to experience the goodness, the fullness of God.
Yes.
Because the obedience wasn't there.
Yep.
And that goes back to the boxing thing. Like, look, you're never going to experience a win. Or, I shouldn't say that. 9 times out of 10, you're not going to experience a win or the feeling of victory if you don't do the work. And I think as believers, for those of you that are watching that are believers, it's also important to note that if you don't do the work, that's visible to people that are thinking about the faith. If you say that you are a believer, but you don't do the work, and then that's what you're putting off to people, that's very obvious to people that you are not who you say you are.
Yeah. It's hypocrisy.
It's hypocrisy.
Yeah.
If you don't do the work in any kind of sport, it's very obvious. You're going to go out to play and you're going to be the only one on the field not knowing what they're doing, or the one in the boxing ring getting hit, or the one that's behind in the race. Like, you have to do the work. But again, bringing it back to the Lord, he is good.
Yeah.
And I think if you have questions, do the work and seek. We know that the Lord draws near. He draws near to those who draw near to him. You draw near to him, he will draw near to you.
Yes.
I got it backwards, I think. But the point is, he's coming to you if you go to him.
Yes.
And that is a promise. That's not something that's like up in the air, kind of pie in the sky. If you trust him and if you allow him into your heart and give him the opportunity, he's a 100% 3-point shooter. He never misses.
Amen, brother. Amen to everything you just said. That is true gold. Now, I believe that we're both men who, judging by our friendship and seeing your life and your growth and the way that you speak and carry yourself, that we're both men who any level of success we're going to reach in our future, any blessings that we have right now, we attain it all unto God. Mm-hmm. Like, it all comes back to the faith and the relationship that we have with our Creator, who we believe is Jesus Christ, who we have tasted and seen that he is good and he is true and his word is real. And in order to develop that relationship, which is the most important thing, I mean, when it comes to the faith, it's not just I'm going to blindly believe something. It's a working growth process where we're reading, we're praying, we're engaging. You mentioned it, being willing to open up and give him a chance, and bringing this all full circle. it's a beautiful picture of these things we've talked about today. Is if you want to build this relationship with God and take it seriously and really see if he's real and faithful to his word, it's going to take what we talked about today. It's going to take discipline. Yeah. It's going to take praying and opening up the Bible and really taking those steps when you don't feel like it in order to grow in it. Exactly. That takes discipline. It's going to take humility. It's going to take a willingness to make your life not all about you. And then it's going to take service. It's going to take you being willing to be someone who is going to serve others, is going to make it about other people and not about ourselves. So you are such a solid representation of what it's going to take to not win just in business and in family and these things, but to win in a relationship with God, to win in life in general. And you, brother, you are such a amazing picture and representation and example of what a man of God looks like, what a Christ-like man is, not just in the way that you talk, but it's in the way that you walk. And again, I'm just so grateful to have you as a friend, to be doing life with you. I know that our families are going to grow up together, and it's going to be amazing. You're going to have such an impact on this world for people to not just reach success in the many areas, but the deeper purposes, the spiritual success. I can just see a lot of spiritual impact you'll have on people. But before we wrap up the show, is there any last words you would leave to someone watching the show? Any last comments that are on your mind here before we wrap it up?
My last thing that I would tell somebody is not to be overcome with doubt or fear when you're getting into the faith.
That's good.
Allow yourself to grow. Give yourself the opportunity to grow, and allow the Lord to do the growing in you. Take your time with it. This is not a race, unlike what Paul was talking about. Your growth with the Lord is going to take time, and it's not going to happen overnight. But the Lord sees every step of the way, and He's guiding your path every step of the way. So whether or not it feels like it's taking too long, or whether or not you feel like nothing is happening, be consistent, be persistent. Just like anything that you would do in business, you have to work at it, and you have to stay persistent. You have to get up and do the work. Get up and do the work. Continue to get up and do the work, and you will see the results.
Amen, brother. That is so good. So, family, I hope you took something from this little interview, this podcast here. There's so much wisdom shared, so much knowledge. Man, I think as you wrapped up with the faith conversation is the best way to grow. If you want to grow, involve God in that growth.
Yeah.
That is a absolute gem. But deeper things that you've talked about today, and just some reminders here is, as you just said, allow yourself to grow. So we got to allow this growth process, and what that means is being willing to make the sacrifices, putting in the work, associating with people that believe in you and can help your confidence level and develop you, being willing to serve people. These are all things that we talked about today, and these are skills that if you adopt and implement in your life, in your area where you feel called to, you're going to see acceleration and growth. And I hope you picked up some wisdom from our brother today. Brandon, you're going to be back on the show very soon. We're going to have his wife on the podcast, and man, it's been a great conversation here. Blessed to have you as a brother. And family, we'll see you next time on The Calling.